Welcome to Masterclass. This episode features a conversation with Glass Animals' Dave Bayley and is moderated by Alan Light. Alan Light is the author of The Skills to Pay the Bills, An Oral History of the Beastie Boys, The Holy or the Broken, Leonard Cohen, Jeff Buckley and the Unlikely Ascent of Hallelujah, and co-writer of the New York Times best-selling memoir by Greg Allman, My Cross to Bear. Dave Bayley is a songwriter, producer, and the frontman for Glass Animals. The band's new album, How to Be a Human Being, can be streamed in its entirety right here on Spotify.
Thank you, NYU, and thank you, Dave Bayley.
Thank you
for coming and joining us today. I've got to get used to this no mic thing. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
I'm used to having a very...
right in front. Grab that.
One of these,
But as Larry said, congratulations. The album out, I guess, like a month today, right? We're
almost exactly.
Yeah, almost to the day.
Pretty frightening. They grow up fast.
And to great success. And again, to tours, as he said, tour stops like 2 sold-out shows at Terminal 5 the next couple nights.
Yeah, I'm a smidge nervous, but I'm excited. Mainly because my mum's coming. That's the most nerve-wracking thing about live music.
Can be a huge room. Huge room, but there's one you're...
Yeah, there's one wild woman at the back. That's your mum, yeah.
So let's talk about this. Let's start in with this record.
Sure.
Did you go in to this project with was there a target? Was there a goal that you set out when you started a project that came to become How to Be a Human Being?
There's always a goal. I get with an album, the goal is always to make something that's cohesive and something that plays really well start to finish and takes you on a journey. I think there's some amazing record like Dark Side of the Moon is the perfect example of that. You go in at one end, it takes you through every emotion, spits you out the other, takes you to another world. So that's always one of the goals. And the other goal with an album is always to do something that you find fresh and interesting and unique. I don't think you can spend time kind of second guessing what other people will like and what other people will find interesting. You just have to do something that's cool to you and new and sounds fresh to you. So those are the 2 kind of main broad goals. But with this one, we were touring so much and meeting so many people. It seemed very obvious to start writing about people. And I'd secretly been recording all of these stories that people were telling me on my phone. Taxi driver, you meet dozens of people every day on tour. So many people. You step out the bus, they're fans. You get a taxi ride to the train, to the radio station. You meet taxi driver, people at the radio, fans afterwards, people working at the venue. And they're all telling you these amazing stories about their lives. And so I didn't want to forget them because my memory is terrible. So I recorded them all and listened to them back and realized that there's certain themes that held all of these stories together. There's certain ways that people talk. There are certain things they talk about, certain things people exaggerate, certain things people leave out. And that says stuff about them as a person and their life and their background story and also about the world as a whole. So I really liked this kind of, I don't know, it had a lot of layers to it, these stories, I thought. So I thought, well, just make up my own characters and make up my own stories and hopefully try and fit all of those themes and all of those ideas I learned from all of those recordings into this record.
Tell us about this as a creative strategy. Was this something that occurred to you before? This notion of, clandestine taping and gathering stories and all of this is this something you go around chasing people and harassing them to get these. Get them to reveal things to you?
There's no harassing, no. It's just conversations.
Was it just an idle thought of, let me hit record and see what happens if I get this?
I wasn't recording for any purpose except I just wanted, I really have a terrible short-term memory. It's just awful. So that's the only reason I was recording these things. I didn't want to forget. People were telling me like some really heartbreaking things, some really, really sad things, really hilarious things, really strange, and I just wanted to remember, and then it occurred to me later, listening back, that it could be quite interesting to try and make a record out of it.
So give an example? I mean, where did, with one of these, where did the story start, and what was it to then be able to shape that into a song?
Okay, cool. Which example? So I was in Atlanta doing a show there, and my brother came down to the show, and we got in a taxi after the show to go to a bar, and we drove past a strip club, and the taxi driver was a kind of middle-aged woman, turned around and was like, "I've got a story about a strip club."
See where this is going. Yeah.
Tell us, maybe. And she started telling us this story, and she said she used to drive trucks long haul across the States, delivering packages.
So sorry, so she starts this. You turn your phone.
Yeah, immediately I just start recording. Boom. And so she's driving these big lorries across the States delivering packages, and she said the best way to make money doing that is to drive for as long as possible without sleeping. So she used to take very heavy drugs. She used to take cocaine and crystal meth and stay awake for days on end, delivering all of these packages. And then she'd just crash at the other end. But one day she was mid-drive and took a bit too much and blacked out. And then woke up in a strip club and looked around, and she turned to the first stripper and she was like, "Hey, where am I?" And the stripper was like, "You're in the strip club." And she said, "No, but what state am I in?" And she had no idea what state she was in. She had no idea how long she blacked out. Turns out she blacked out for about 30 days. And she'd lost her truck. She didn't know where that was, any of these goods. And she had this overwhelming guilt that she'd done something absolutely terrible. She basically thinks that she's killed someone, but she doesn't know for sure. And so I was just trying to think how can you have that feeling? How can someone live like that? And there's no way to kind of explain it. So I put that kind of sentiment, that kind of unknown guilt into the song, which ended up being Mama's Gun, which is track 5 or something. Yeah.
So what you took from that was not the detail of the story, but that
just the way it makes
or that
you feel.
Feeling that was in the...
Yeah. And some of these stories, they make you feel such strange combinations of emotions. I don't know if we have time for another one. Should I just do it?
If it's as good as that, I would say do it.
Okay. This one's really quite horrifying, but another taxi driver. This time in New York, there's a theme here. And you can actually hear some car sounds on the record for that reason. This taxi driver was driving us again through New York City, and he saw a disco nightclub, and was like, "I've got a story about this nightclub." And I was like, "Oh, cool, tell me the story." And so he was in love with this girl in high school, just absolutely infatuated with this girl, and he'd asked her out every month for years, for 3 years. And eventually she said yes. Years of this chasing. And she said yes, so he went on a double date with his best friend's fiancée, him, and this new love of his life. And they went to they smoked a bit of pot before they went in. They went to the club, they danced for a bit, and then they went back to the car, and his best friend and his best friend's fiancée started kissing in the front seat of the car. He was like, "Okay, I should definitely start kissing this girl. Now's my time." And he turned to make a move, and someone tapped on the window of the car. All of a sudden, everyone looks up, and they all made eye contact with this guy outside the car who was just looking in. And all of a sudden, the guy outside the car pulls out a gun and aims it at the 2 people in the front seat and shoots them both. Points the gun at him in the back seat and pulls the trigger, and it just clicks. He's run out of bullets. And I was like, where you told me the story, and I couldn't say anything for a bit. It was horrifying, and the way he'd gone from that absolute that young love, that kind of giddiness, to instant terror, and that super strange combination of emotions was another thing that I tried to chuck into a song. It's those feelings really.
But it's interesting. Again, you didn't use the narrative. You didn't use that as a story. You were just looking for what the feeling in that moment was.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of recreate a lot of those feelings in the lyrics of these songs and the music as well. Yeah.
Not sure how to follow that story. So,
sorry.
Was there so?
They survived, by the way. If that makes it any better.
That helps us move on.
Yeah.
this was the dreaded second album.
Yeah.
And the cliche always is, you've got your whole life that goes into the first album and the best of everything you've put together for all years, and you do that, and then you've got to make the second album, touring, promoting, running around on a deadline, that it's such a completely different experience, and it's the reason you see people struggle so much with that. Was that, it seems like you took that more as opportunity than as challenge.
The recording people and things, yes, that I tried to find opportunity in it, but the writing didn't happen. It's impossible to write on tour. You wake up and you go to your radio interview, then you do press for a couple of hours, then you go to sound check, then you do a couple more interviews, then you eat some dinner, then you do a show. So it's a full day. So there's not really any chance to write. So it happened as soon as we came off tour, went straight to the studio and started. Yeah. Was there a sound in your head to start with when you started that? Did you have any sense of where, as records, these were going to go? I didn't really know what the sound was going to do, to be honest. I definitely knew, I had the idea that I knew each song was going to be a different person. And I had a lot of these feelings that I was talking about, all of these kind of themes that I'd learned from all of these stories. So actually, when I sat down to do it, it came really quickly. Like the demos for this record were done in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, just super quick. Because as soon as you start putting pen to paper and you start getting an idea of who this character is, it actually becomes really, really easy to write a song quite quickly. So if you get stuck, you just think about what they do in their everyday life and what's around them, what's in their house, and you can add that into the song. You can even add that into the sonics and stuff.
Well, and you didn't stop that when the song stopped, right? I mean, talk about how you've extended all of these characters into, these other sort of multimedia life. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite weird. I spent a lot of time alone in a small room thinking of these made-up people. And to me, they became oddly real. And I wanted to give other people a chance to maybe do that if they felt like it. And also, we made websites for a couple of the songs, and those websites give people, hopefully, if people want to, give you a way into the lyrics. Maybe you can catch some references you didn't catch in the lyrics the first time round. Maybe you can see where some of the sounds were chosen from, and things like that. It's just another way in. I mean, people used to buy vinyl, and you get the vinyl, you get all the artwork inside, you get a fold-out poster, you get a lyric sheet, you get some photographs of the studio, and it gave you a context for all of the music that you were about to listen to. And now that everyone's doing everything digitally, there's not really an equivalent. So this was our attempt at trying to do something similar and give people that context around the music.
It's kind of, I don't know that anybody's fully done that, taken these songs and just continued to look into these characters. And it seems like there's lots of fan projects that may be around more sort of concept-y albums or bands that have those kind of wild, devoted cults that attach a lot of this stuff. But for you to say, let's continue and look further into these characters and look at where they come from and look at the stuff that might have informed what gets you this song. It's not a thing you've seen many people do.
Oh, I don't know. It was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and all of the information was there anyway. I had these big spreadsheets on what they and kind of big. I don't know. Spreadsheet is definitely the wrong word. Actually, more of like a diagram with the lyrics and then lines coming off the lyrics and pictures of what's in their house and what they do and notes and what they wear and everything. So it's actually quite easy to create this stuff.
And all of that went into that all was happening as you were writing. That you were, because it's fun. It's like an inside. I mean, when you talk to actors or TV series or directors or whatever, I guess they have the character Bible. Here's all the background on your character, and here's that's a thing that they sort of put up in your study. Cool. Here's where they're coming from, and this may not be in the script, but so you better understand them. Yeah. And it's like you were building it out in that same way.
That's quite. I didn't know that happened. But we did end up casting an actor for each song, in the end. That's what you see on the cover. We cast actors instead of models. I think you could have cast models, but the models probably would have. You give all of these characters quite minuscule details, and it comes out in their face and their poses, and they interact with each other in a way that models wouldn't. And then you can put them in the videos, and in the artwork on the inside and stuff. Yeah.
You also went in this time with a different instrumental approach, right? I mean, this was a different kind of different arrangements, different construction of what these tracks were. Can you tell us what changed between the last album and this one, just in putting the music together?
I'd say it was backwards. The first album started very much with the electronics and the beats, and then vocal lines came on top of that, melodies first, and then fit the lyrics in, and the lyrics were kind of came part of the soundscape almost. Whereas this time, because the songs were about people, I wanted to do it the other way around entirely. I wanted the lyrics to be the focus, so I started with the lyrics and little vocal melodies, and then chords that fit those lyrics, and then you start adding the sonics and the little riffs and the little production tweaks.
Do you feel like that's, is that essential to try to find, is it going to be each time trying to find some other way in, some other tactics to get the motors running? Was that just something because of the speed and the requirements of this time, or do you feel like that's a right way to work?
I don't think there's a wrong way to work. You can definitely still do both, and there was a track in this record that started with the beat, and then the lyrics and vocal line came afterwards. But both good. I think the one thing I would say about this way is it starting with the lyrics and then the chords and then the sounds, it really allows you to adapt the sonics to the content of the song. So you can really, for instance, there's a song called Pork Soda on the record. It's about a homeless guy who lives outside, and once we finish all the lyrics, you know quite a lot about his life and where he lives. And so we actually went out and recorded the song. We made a drum kit out of trash and put it out in the street and recorded it with one microphone, and we all stood around chanting around this. You can do things like that, and there's a character who's really into video games and just sits around watching TV all day and smoking pot, and all the sound effects in that song are all, we bought these little 8-bit synthesizers, and so it all sounds like it's come from a video game. There's a TV turning on and off in the background, and you can do things like that more easily.
Given the way that it was done, there may not be an answer to this, but was there one song, or was there even a moment in a song, one of those kinds of experiments where you could feel it come into focus? I mean, where you would sort of click and you thought, oh, okay, I see what it is that we're doing here.
I'm not so sure. No, it was so quick, the whole process. I'm not sure I ever felt it clicked until really, really near the end. And we got to a point where we were saying, oh, maybe it's actually done. Because we just had so many ideas. We were just throwing all of these ideas down on tape for a couple of weeks. And it all seemed a bit rushed and a bit manic until we sat back and looked at it all and we were like, oh, okay, cool. It could be finished. Yeah.
Always, I think the question of how do you know when it's done?
Yeah. It's a difficult question, but I think we found ourselves at that point when we stood back and looked at it, and we kind of went back in to try and change things up a little bit more, and we realized that we were actually taking away from the spontaneity of a lot of the songs when we went in and tried to fix them. There's something that you capture when you're putting things down really quickly, when you're running around the studio, like tweaking synthesizers, picking up the first guitar, rushing and plugging it into all of the different, the first pedals that you find. You capture a kind of weird, I don't know, it's like when you go see a live show, it's different to the recording. There's an energy there. And we realized that when we went back and tried to edit some of those things, it lost something. So yeah, we eventually reached a point where we thought we were basically messing things up.
Now we're starting to slide back down. Yeah. Since this was, if it's not it's not fully a concept album or a through narrative album, but that it did have this idea that more than just cohesive in sound, but this kind of underlying notion through it. Does it, the way that people listen to music has transformed so dramatically, and whether they're going to hear this on shuffle or on a playlist or out of order or whichever way that it comes to them, do you think about how does this work when it's all together, and how does this work if it's pulled apart, or do you just do it and sort of let everybody else worry about how it plays out?
You definitely have to make sure each thing stands alone in its own right. That's really important. But ultimately, I want the whole to be stronger than any of its individual parts. You do have to make sure they work on their own. That is important these days. So we did have to make a few little edits for the digital world. So you can't. I think like huge long. There were some big interludes on the record initially, and they don't really work in the digital realm. I think they really confuse people if you just put on one song at a party and there's a 3-minute introduction. It's a bit odd, isn't it? So yeah, we made a few little sacrifices.
So let's go all the way back. Let's go as far back as we can go here. What was the first music that caught your attention? What's the first thing you remember noticing and being interested in?
Definitely the Beatles' White Album. That was, my dad used to have that record just lying around, so I used to listen to that all the time. And he used to play music to me before I went to bed. So I'd always request Piggy's song. If anyone knows that one. It's a banger.
And when and why did you start to think about dedicating yourself to this? When did you start thinking about music as something beyond just listening to?
Not till much, much later. I didn't think it was a possibility. I didn't think it was a career option. My family were very much, you're going to go to school, work hard, do a vocational degree, and then you're going to get a nice job, secure job. And it was about halfway through that degree that I started DJing to make a bit of money at first, and then you come home from a DJ set and you're buzzing because there was a lot of bass and it was exciting, and you had a Red Bull. So I bought a synthesizer and started just messing about. First couple of years of university, late at night. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And tell me about, there's some relationship to hip hop in here that's clear within some of the tracks. Was that because it's not the most obvious influence on a rock and roll, whatever it is that we call such a, indie world rock and roll band and all that. But it's, you guys did a single with Joey Badass, and the latest new single is, I'm going to get the numbers. Episode 2, season 3. Episode 3, season 2.
Season 2. Yes. Album 2, episode 3, track 3.
There you go. Yeah. That's a sort of very modern hip-hop kind of a track that's on there. This is more than a casual thing. Has that been a, sort of lifelong interest, and how does that slot in with the other stuff?
That's been around for a while.
Well, yes.
Yeah. I grew up for a bit in Texas when I was a kid, and it was a tiny little town, really, really small, and there were a couple little stations there, and most of them played country music, and one of them played gangster rap, and that was definitely the best one. So I listened to that. It was everything, everything Dr. Dre produced, everything Timbaland produced, everything the Neptunes and Pharrell produced, and from there I got into Madlib and Doom, and went back and started looking at Tribe Records, and now, of course, I think the production in hip hop is absolutely incredible and so forward thinking, more than most other genres. So it's always been the most exciting genre for me.
And how does that inform making the records that you make? directly or indirectly?
I've spent a lot of time listening to those records, so I think subconsciously I end up heading towards those sounds. And there are definitely tracks from this record where I sit back now and I think, like, whoa, if Timbaland heard this, you'd think I was ripping him off or something. But, so there's the subconscious element. And the other thing is I've spent a lot of time trying to recreate those beats and trying to work out how they got those sounds. And that kind of naturally means they become part of your palette and your technique in the studio. Once you learn how to do things and how to make a certain drum sound, you tend to apply it in the studio because it's what pops into your head.
Does it feel like there's, do you think of division between the influence of different genres? Is it all, are we now in such a sort of post-shuffle universe that it's all just part of what it is that you do? Or do you think of that you're drawing from one place to do one thing and another place to do another thing?
Definitely not that, because I think they're definitely listening back to the first record as well. You catch, but like I'm a huge fan of Can. I think they're an amazing band, and Talk, I think they're an amazing band. And listening back to it, you recognize a lot of things from those, but it's not a kind of direct like, I'm going to take from hip hop and put it in this genre. It's just everything I've ever listened to jumbled up, shaken around and spat out onto tape. I don't think it's a conscious effort.
And so now you're in touring mode. Given all of the different experiments and elements that went into this record, what's it like to then take that and try and make a show out of that? Try and figure out how to bring that to a stage.
Tough. It's really tough. Yeah, there are only 4 of us in the band, and we can only play so much. I don't do any. I hate backing tracks and clicks. I think they're evil. So we do what 4 people can do, and that means we have to change the arrangements, change some of the structures, and it takes a bit of time to work it out as well. So the first couple of shows of a tour, we're still finding our feet. So we've got these 2 shows tomorrow. We're still working out the best arrangements and which parts are the most effective to play and when. And I think the next time we come back to New York, things will probably be quite different. You'll probably end up hearing remixes.
Whereas so don't worry if you miss these shows.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Next time around, that'll be when you really want to see. Yeah. It's always such a fascinating. You're starting maybe to come out of it, maybe not. You live with this record. It's yours and the band's and the people around you, and then there's the moment when it's just out in the world for everybody to do with what they will. Yeah. First of all, is that as weird a feeling as it seems like it would be?
Yeah. And it's really strange. It's like sending your kid off to school for the first day. I don't have any kids, but I imagine that's what it would be like. Make some friends, please. Yeah.
And what do you have a sense yet? What surprised you about the response? Maybe you don't fully have a sense on stage yet, but things that you think were really gonna work that just it isn't happening, or other ones that you weren't so sure of that feel like they really are going someplace exciting. Do you have a sense of how that's transforming as it takes on this next phase of life?
Yeah, I was really shocked at how people already knew some of the words, which I wasn't expecting at all. That was the most mind-blowing thing. We played that first show. We had our first show of the tour in Raleigh. Is that how you pronounce it?
Raleigh will do.
They kept telling me off for pronouncing it wrong when I was there, so I don't know how to actually say it. But we played the first new song, and people sang it back, and it was just a huge sigh of relief. Yeah.
Related, but I meant to ask before, which song surprised you the most? Which song really went somewhere that you just didn't anticipate?
On record.
On the record, yeah.
The last song. Yeah, Agnes. It's probably, I like songs with a bit of playfulness in the sounds and the production, and I think that definitely comes through all of the tracks on the record, maybe except for that one, which definitely touches on a much deeper, darker subject matter. And there are places on the album that are incredibly personal. I never, writing all of these stories about other people actually gave me an excuse to put myself into a lot of these stories, and some of those characters are actually just me. I'm not going to say which, because that would give it all away. But yeah, that song in particular was tough.
So now you're back. You said you can't write on the road.
Yeah.
You said you can't write while touring. Is it what is it to sort of shut that down? Are there things that do tug at you that sort of instantly start pulling you to the next thing?
To want to write again, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, getting sick of touring does definitely. I wasn't sick of it by the end, but I'd say I was more like homesick for the studio. I was so ready to get and actually make music again. I think that was the main trigger. Maybe I think that's probably it, really. Yeah.
It just runs its course.
It does run its course. My favorite thing is sitting in a room making weird noise. So you really miss it after a while. Really, really miss it. And I get opportunities to do it on tour. I'm still going to do some collaborations and some remixes and things, but actually sitting down and focusing on a bigger thing, multi-dimensional project is, you miss that.
All right. Questions out here, if you can reach.
Hi, I'm Palomi. My question was, what character was your favorite to write on that new album?
Ooh, I spoke about the last song a bit. That was my favorite for a lot of reasons. I also think
that last, meaning Agnes.
Yeah, Agnes. I think that was really fun, not fun. It was special, I'll say. The funnest one to write about, I think, was season 2, episode 3. Just cheeky, and everyone knows someone like that. Everyone knows someone who just sits on the sofa all day doing nothing with their lives, watching Netflix serials for hours and hours a day, and smoking. So it was quite fun to try and fit as many references to old TV shows and as many references to old video game soundtracks in there as possible. Really just cram in all of these silly references.
How's it kick in? I'm Michael.
Hey, man.
I have 2 really quick ones. 1, why Glass Animals? What the name?
Yeah.
And 2, as you can hear, I'm super congested. When you're on tour, because you guys do pretty massive tours, how do you battle with like sickness or just like not feeling great and like literally having to go on stage and play like over like an hour and a half set and pretend that everything's great?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah. That's a really good question.
I battle with that all the time.
Yeah. Well, Glass Animals is it's probably not the most interesting answer. We gave ourselves a couple of days. When I first showed the music to the guys in the band, they were like, "Oh, this is great. You put it on the internet." And I was like, "Cool. I'll put it on the internet if you're in the band with me." And they were like, "Okay, cool. Band formed, done." And then we were like, "Oh shit, we need a name." And we sat around for a couple of days. It was like Christmas holidays or something, and just started writing down names for a bit, just doing what teenagers do, drinking and whatnot, and had all these names, and they were all rubbish, so we just chose the first one, and it was Glass Animals. And then, the sickness thing, it sucks. It really sucks. We've all been on stage, like Drew, our guitarist, has been on stage just looking so ill. Really, really ill. Mm-hmm. Not in a good way. You turn around and he's like propping himself up on his keyboard. And he's like got one eye closed and he's dribbling. And so sometimes you just have to man up and do it. But I think you genuinely have to take really good care of yourself. It sounds a bit boring, but you have to sleep a fair bit. I don't really like sleeping, but you have to force yourself to sleep for at least like 6 hours a night. Otherwise you get into trouble. That really helps. And you have to just find some time, like personal space, I think is incredibly important on tour. And then if you do have to go on stage with a cold, there's some tricks. There are a lot of tricks. There are lots of amazing medicines these days. And the most important, there's some illegal medicines that some people use. I don't. I've heard stories. I've heard stories of like people's managers hiding behind. So a certain famous guitarist's manager used to stand behind his Marshall amp stack and have some poppers in one hand and a bag of cocaine in the other. And this guitarist, if he wasn't feeling too good, would like waddle around the side of the Marshall stack and just have a little bit of each, and then just rip a guitar solo out. So that's one way. Don't do that. Don't do that. I suggest the much more ridiculous thing.
Organic.
Just have. You can get amazing tablets. They're called vocal zones. Get some of them. They'll clear you right up. And then steaming with a kettle. Yeah. Not quite as badass, but effective.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go over here. I'll try to be good to both sides.
Hi, I'm Roz.
Hey.
I'm a music technology major here.
Cool.
So my question is, so the first album has a really distinctive sound, especially in terms of the production, and the second one is conceptually, like, obviously a lot different, but it's definitely still recognizably by the same people. So how do you maintain the creative, like, identity that you've created for yourself with the first album while still pushing yourself to do something different the second time around and explore new sounds and stuff like that?
I think you kind of have to have a bit of faith in your taste in sounds. When you go into the studio and you start making noise, everyone likes different things, slightly different sounds. Some people like death metal and that really heavy guitar sound, and I really like the raw sound of like a little Fender Champ plugged into my shitty old 63 Hofner, and people gravitate to those different sounds, and you just have to trust the fact that you're going to keep gravitating towards a certain type of sound. So as you build a track, it just inevitably ends up sounding a bit like your taste. So have that faith. And the other thing that ends up happening is you end up being slightly limited by your equipment. So yeah, maybe it still sounds like us because I'm using some of the same equipment, but we've got some new stuff as well that I've really liked. So that hopefully means some kind of progression. But I still end up going back to that same stuff I made the first record on a lot because I'm so familiar with it.
And even if you're wildly experimenting, you're still the same guys.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's
I
true.
imagine somewhere that, kicks in.
It definitely kicks in. All the music gets pushed through the filter of the other three guys as well, and they have tastes just like any of us. So if they don't like a certain part of it, it's out, and got to come up with a new bit that everyone likes. So that filter actually really helps as well. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sasha.
Hey.
So I'm a studio art major, and like the process of creating can be either blissful or like rough on you. Have there been moments in creating either the first album or the second album where you've either been super incredibly confident with what you've made or very doubtful?
Yeah. I believe in there's a cycle. I think so. You start a song and you're like, oh, this is wicked. So you go up, and then you kind of plateau. You get stuck for a bit. Yeah, it's wicked. And then you go back down and you think, oh, this really blows. This really blows. I'm going to park it, and you leave it for a bit, and you don't work on it. And then you come back to it a couple of months later, and you think, oh, this is really cool. And you keep going through this cycle of ups and downs, and eventually you just get to a point where you can't hear it anymore because you've heard it too many times. But they're definitely those cycles. Yeah, with everything I've ever made, you hate it for a bit. Yeah, does that answer the question?
So what's it take? So then you hate it for a bit, and then what's it take? Do you go back to all of it, no matter how crappy it was, or no matter how
I try to go back and
unfinished or whatever
to
it was?
things.
Does everything then get another pass, or I think the question is when do you
When
know
do you
how to
chuck it out?
which do you dive back into and have a pulse again?
Well, I guess for this record, I only wrote about 13 tracks, and there are 11 on the record if you count the little interlude. So they all had their second chance. They all had third and fourth chances, really. And you have to trust that gut instinct quite a lot. When you feel something is good and going well at the beginning, you have to trust that initial high, and you put a little sticker next to it, and on your computer or in your notebook, whatever, just mark it for later, for keepsies, and come back to it.
So there must be something in there.
There's something about it. If it gives you that little feeling, to be honest, a lot of the things that I start, I say I wrote 14 songs for the record or whatever, 13 songs for the record. I started a few more than that, but they got thrown away within half an hour or something. If you just don't feel it at the beginning, I chuck it out super early. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nicole, and I was wondering if you have a dream collaboration.
A dream collaboration?
Yeah.
I've been asked that question a few times, and it always changes. It always changes.
Your dreams may change.
Yeah, dreams change. Same with my favorite album changes every day. But dream collaborations, for living people, I don't know, maybe, I think Kendrick's an incredible artist. Who wouldn't want to collaborate with Beyonce? I've been listening to a bit of the Alabama Shakes, and I think Britney's voice is incredible. I saw them live the other day, and to work with someone's voice like that would just be mind-blowing. But I'm always keen to work with people who do something that I'll never be able to do. So I can't really rap yet. And there's certain areas of chord work where I'm not very good yet, so I'd love to work with some classical people, and there's certain people who are wizards with modular synths. I'd love to work with that. Yeah, all sorts. But Beyonce.
That's never a wrong answer.
No.
Whatever the question is.
Hi, my name is Clint. I have a question about just your collaboration. How did that collaboration with Joey Badass come together?
So we did a show in Central Park for Summer Stage, and then we had a day off the next day, I think. And I'd heard through the musical grapevine that is just friends and other people in the music world that he liked one of our songs. And I was a huge fan of his mixtape, 1999 mixtape, Joey's mixtape. And so I got in touch with him and was like, hey, should we link up? I'm in New York. And he was like, dude, I'm in New York. And he's never in New York. He's always traveling around doing Mr. Robot or whatever. He's like a big TV star now. So it just worked. We went to the studio. Well, I went to the studio at about 3 p.m, and Joey didn't turn up. He was meant to be there, but he didn't. It happens often. So I'm just messing around. I'd made a couple of beats, and I've messed around on a couple of beats, and then 8 hours later, Joey rocks up. And he's like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I was helping my mom. And I was like, oh, fair enough. That's cool. You got to help your mom. And then he came in. He was super pro, and I played him a couple of beats, and he was like, yeah, first one, that's fire. That's fire. Play me the next one. I played him another one. He's like, oh yeah, that's fire. That's fire. Played him the third one. I was like, bro, that's fucking fire. Fucking fire. And he started jumping up and down. He was like, all right, I'm ready. And he went into the booth and did his thing. And then he came out of the booth, and I was like, I've got a line, I'm going to go do my thing. Didn't put my vocal down, and that was it. Happened so quickly. And we spent the rest of the night until about, I think it must have been about 4 a.m, just arranging it together and hanging out. It was fun. Came super quickly.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you.
Hey.
Can you share any ultimate goals that you want to achieve as a musician?
Ultimate goals? I just love making music. So if I can keep doing that for the rest of my sane life, I'd be really happy. I think that's my ultimate goal, and survive. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe live in something other than under a tree or something. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Survive and create.
Survive, yeah. Maybe that's not incredibly ambitious, but to keep doing interesting things. I think if I ever start doing things that are that I listen back to and are quite boring, I'd be really upset with myself. You have to tell me. I've done something really dull. Yeah.
That's your job. All right.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. We're at time, and thank you, Dave Bayley.